Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Hi, Pastor Brian. I'm pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. And we're continuing our journey through the book of Exodus, doing a chapter a day, more or less every day, at least 5 times a week. Sorry about the image for whatever reason this morning. Even though I'm in the same room I usually use, the lighting seems to be off today, especially. Uh, so getting a lot of glare off of my screen, um, and I'm disappearing in parts of me anyway. But that's all right. That's all right. I'm going to share an image a little bit later, though, instead, anyway. So you've been joining right along, I'm sure. A lot of you have anyway, and that's great. Appreciate that. Oh, I got people checking in before I even said to do that. So thank you for that. Good morning to you, Cheryl. Good morning, Marcia. Good Sunday. Yes, indeed. My brother Ron already checked in on via texting. Excuse me, before I was even on. So he's here and says good morning to everybody as well. Um, so the setting the place, reminding us where we are, where the Israelites are, these voyagers through the desert. They're still in the desert of Sin, so they're down here, and they were in Rephidim, which is right in here. Now, today's passage, chapter 18, talks about being on Mount Sinai / Mount Moriah, Mount Horeb. It's known by several different things. Somebody had a question about that. So my Bible says this and yours says that. It's the same place. It's known by a couple different things for whatever reason. I don't know if it's one tribe or one group of people calls it one thing and a different group calls it something else. Um, or if it's just locally referred to as one, that kind of thing. So it's known by two different names. Sometimes it's called Mount Horeb, sometimes it's called Mount Sinai, but it's talking about the same physical location. Now this passage says they're on Mount Sinai, and yet the very next chapter, 19, it says that they're in Rephidim. So a couple things that we could think about with that. One is, don't read it quite so literally when it says they're on Mount Sinai. It could be saying just in the vicinity of Mount Sinai, although Rephidim isn't right there. It's a few miles away. So it could be that. Or it could be a case, remember I've said it multiple times, I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me say it. It comes from the book of Exodus as we now have it, comes from a collection of stories and a collection of different groups trying to get their points across. So a lot of scholars think that chapter 18, because it's unusual and because of its location being odd, that it might be one of those cases that a group wanted this in there, said it has to be in there, and this is where they put it. All right. So it says it's on Mount Sinai, but they're gonna be back in Rephidim. Let's not worry about a detail like that. Let's just go with the flow for the story. Ooh, we got more checking in. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Maureen. Good morning, honey. Good morning, Marilyn. Good to see all of you joining in this morning. Wonderful. Although I know several folks are in the building who are often on this, so our number would have been increased. We're doing good. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to get into chapter 18 now. Chapter 18, it's actually two pieces, we might say, two segments, two stories. The first one is a little bit odd, so we're going to talk about it after I read it. There's several odd things, perhaps, about it. Moses' father-in-law, he's making a return. Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything God had done for Moses and his people, the Israelites. He heard especially about how Hashem had rescued them from Egypt. Pause. So Jethro is back, right? Because they're moving closer to Midian. He's over in Midian, which is still over on the other side of keep doing that. He's over here, but he was able to journey over here to the Sinai Peninsula to meet with Moses and the Israelites. Now he has been referred to as a priest of Midian. But as I mentioned before, he's never identified exactly what kind of priest or how he's a priest or what God he is a priest for. All right. Um, so this is big for him, and that's a big part of what this story is all about. It's about its effect on Jethro. This first part anyway. Okay. So continuing. Earlier, Moses had sent his wife Zipporah and his two sons back to Jethro, who had taken them in. Moses' first son was named Gershom, for Moses had said when the boy was born, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land, because Gershom sounds like a Hebrew word meaning a foreigner there. His second son was named Eleazar, for Moses had said, the God of my ancestors was my helper, because it means God is my helper. He rescued me from the sword of Pharaoh. Pause. So what's confusing or interesting or different about this passage so far is it says Moses sent Zipporah and their two sons away and to Jethro. However, we presume that Zipporah and the boys were with him in Egypt, were with Moses in Egypt, because we have the story when Moses left Midian, when Moses left Jethro's land, he took Zipporah and their firstborn son, Gershom, with them. It was their only son at that time. So we presume, and it sounds very proper, that the second one was born while they were in Egypt, while the plagues were going on, or just after, because of the name, if nothing else. God is my helper. So either in Egypt or shortly after they left Egypt is when the second son, Eleazar, was born, presumably. So when did Moses send Zipporah back to Jethro, and why? Here's what some commentators say, and it makes a lot of sense, that Moses had just sent them over to him just recently, just within the last week or two, however long it would take, with provisions, probably with a few other people as well, to go to Jethro and tell him, hey, we've gotten release of the Israelites, of the slaves, out of Egypt, and we're now in Sinai. Because how else would he have known where they were, right? So it makes a lot of sense that that's what Moses did. He kind of he sent, not so much sent them away, but sent them on ahead. Might be a better way to describe what a lot of people think is what actually is meant by that passage. And it does make sense, because otherwise this passage is excuse me, really weird. So where was I? Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, now came to visit Moses in the wilderness. He brought Moses' wife and two sons with him, and they arrived while Moses and the people were camped near the mountain of God, Mount Sinai. Jethro had sent a message to Moses saying, I, Jethro, your father-in-law, am coming to see you with your wife and your two sons. Very official sounding, isn't it? Right? We just let him know we're on our way. We are coming to meet you. So don't move around a whole lot. Make it easy for us to find you. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. They asked about each other's welfare and then went into Moses' tent. Moses told his father-in-law everything Hashem had done to Pharaoh in Egypt on behalf of Israel. He also told about all the hardships they had experienced along the way and how Hashem had rescued his people from all their troubles. Jethro was delighted when he heard about all the good things Hashem had done for Israel as he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. Pause. So there we get to the crux. There we get to the important point of why is this passage in here. It's Jethro being evangelized. Okay, it's Jethro basically being evangelized, being told this wonderful news and all the things that God had done, Hashem God had done for the Israelites and got them out of Egypt, and we're here. So it's perhaps not quite introducing Jethro to Hashem, but making it helps to make Jethro realize that Hashem is the God of gods. Okay, cool. Praise Hashem, Jethro said, for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Yes, he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt. I know now that Hashem is greater than all other gods because he rescued his people from the oppression of the proud Egyptians. Pause. So he recognizes that everything that took place, everything that Moses told him about what had happened in Egypt was really Hashem going against other gods, showing power over all of them. And so Hashem's purpose was accomplished. Remember, he had made that, Hashem had made that declaration once or twice, that I'm doing these things for my glory and for others to see, to be witnesses. And he recognizes it immediately. And he is greater. Hashem is greater than all other gods, Continuing, then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. Aaron and all the elders of Israel came out and joined him in a sacrificial meal in God's presence. Pause. So Jethro is serving his, fulfilling his duties as priest. He's priest of Midian, but now he's kind of priest of Israel at the same time. The author does make sure to include Aaron in this piece, though, as well, because it's a little bit of foreshadowing, and it's setting things up. It's instituting the Aaronic priesthood actually before the Aaronic priesthood is even instituted. Aaronic, Aaronic, that would be the priesthood of Aaron and his descendants. Okay, so he's sort of instituting it by having Aaron there for this sacrificial meal, this sacrifice, without it actually having yet become the Aaronic priesthood. So that ends the first piece, the first narrative section of chapter 18. I'm sorry, I got something in my eye. And now we're going to turn to the second section, all right? Still involving Jethro, but really just Jethro and Moses. Those are the two important ones now. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. Yeah. My wife, being smart, says my finger's in my eye. They waited before him from morning till evening. I'm going to repeat that. They waited before him from morning till evening. So Moses was there all day long with this long line of people, listening to their complaints, their disputes against each other. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, "What are you really accomplishing here? What are you doing? Why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening?" Moses replied, "Because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I am the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions." Pause. So here's what's taking place. Moses is serving as what we would say a judge. He's the magistrate. He's a legal authority, civil legal authority, deciding between Jacob and Eleazar, and all that kind of stuff, because they have disagreements. They're quarreling about something, whatever the case may be. Now, a lot of them are small, but Moses is currently the only magistrate, the only legal authority to serve as judge, to make these decisions between the two things. but Jethro is going to say something. Jethro is the first business consultant. Okay, Jethro is the first business consultant because he says this. You're doing too much. Why are you trying to do all this all by yourself? What's really going on here? Now, maybe it was Moses's ego that he felt he had to do everything, or he's like thinking big picture and he's not looking at details, which can also be the case, and doesn't realize that he's really doing wrong and doing harm to himself by trying to do it all alone. So Jethro speaks up. "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me and let me give you a word of advice." I said I was going to share my screen, and I didn't. Sorry. Back to this. Pause. It's an artist's rendering, a depiction of Jethro meeting up with Moses and bringing back his Zipporah and the two boys. But we're going to keep that one up for a little bit. I think we're going to keep this one up again. I'm going to start over again on Jethro's response. "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me and let me give you a word of advice, and may God be with you. You should continue to be the people's representative before God, bringing their disputes to him. Teach them God's decrees and give them his instructions. Show them how to conduct their lives." Here's the but. "But select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,000, 150, and 10. They should always be available to solve the people's common disputes, but have them bring the major cases to you. Let the leaders decide the smaller matters themselves. They will help you carry the load, making the task easier for you. If you follow this advice, and if God commands you to do so, then you will be able to endure the pressures, and all these people will go home in peace." Pause. That was a long piece, I know. So Jethro, first business consultant, telling Moses, "You've got to start distributing work. Okay, you need to start getting other people to carry their load, to shoulder their burdens, to take a little bit off of your shoulders. You shouldn't be doing all this stuff yourself." Now, I understand, he's saying, I kind of understand, you need to still be the person that goes to God. You need to be the one that handles the big stuff, okay? But as for the smaller stuff that's showing up, especially the stuff that keeps coming up, let somebody else handle it. Now, notice what he says about them. He says, they need to be honest men. Okay, so he gives three things, three qualities, characteristics about these people. They need to be honest. They need to fear God. And hate bribes. Now, I forget how the NRSV translates it, but basically that's what it means, hate bribes. There could also be a context of uses violence. You don't want magistrates that use violence to bring about their decisions or are susceptible to bribery to do it. Okay, so you need to find somebody who fits these three characteristics. Then you'll be golden. Teach them these things. Go over these principles that you've already set and established. These rules that God has helped you to discern, if nothing else. And if you do this, it'll be better for you and the people. You won't wear yourself out, and you and these people will go home in peace. So continuing, Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. He chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over the people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,000, 150, and 10. These men were always available to solve the people's common disputes. They brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of the smaller matters themselves. Soon after this, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law, who returned to his own land. End of the chapter. Not end of me talking, because what they established there is reiterated. It's kind of set in, I think, Deuteronomy or Leviticus. Let's say Deuteronomy, and it becomes the general practice for centuries, for millennia. It's setting up a high court, which the high court then was Moses. The high court becomes the high priests. So it's a little, but it's getting set up that way. They're creating an institution. They're creating the judicial branch of government for the people of Israel. That's what they're doing with this little piece here, and with the piece later on, which again, I'm pretty sure it's Deuteronomy, where it's being more established and affirmed, and that's how it's going to be, because they understand that, and they always understood. Moses even understood that these directives, these commands, these laws needed to be discerned, needed to be looked at. Moses was not a strict constructionist. Okay, he didn't read the laws as being exactly this way and it cannot be changed. He actually makes exceptions based on context. I don't think we're going to be talking about that because I don't think it takes place in Exodus, but only men are supposed to own land. But when a group of women, all daughters of the same father, say, what about us? Our father's name is going to disappear. He says, you know what? You're right. You can own the land until a male descendant comes along. But that's an exception. See, and Moses understood that the rules need to be not so much rules as guidelines, and need to be evaluated, need to be looked at, need some discernment, and need context. So, hey, great. Thank you for joining me this morning, folks. Again, tomorrow morning it's going to be at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock live, because I have a meeting that starts at 8:30. I said I might be a few minutes late, so that's all right. But I thought it was supposed to be at 9 o'clock, but apparently it was originally going to be 8. Now it's 8:30, so I'm all messed up. But anyway, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, right here on Facebook and on Zoom. If anyone wanted to join on Zoom, doesn't matter. You see the same thing either way. See you later, Cheryl. Right. Have a great day, my friends. I hope these words have blessed you. Keep your eyes and ears open for what God is doing in your life. Then say thank you and tell somebody, because we need to hear it. Bye, friends. Be blessed.